podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Hey, Ed, stop me if you've heard this one before. Man United were 1-0 down at half-time and won the game away from home in the Premier League in season 2020-2021.
Wouldn't it just be fairer on everyone if we just started the game at half-time 1-0 down? Just do that.
Yeah.
I mean, fixture congestion problem solved.
Yeah.
Like, everyone can just, have another hour back of their lives.
The opposition would be like really glad because they'd all back themselves. They'd be like, yeah, we'll be the exception to the rule. But no, you won't. Bruno Fernandes is inevitable.
Well, you know what's inevitable? Penendez scoring. Panenka not scoring.
Oh, yeah, you make a good point. Sergio.
I was disappointed, to be honest, in Bruno. Like, just context, right? Of the weekend and what happened. Just chip it in. Come on, Bruno.
Especially since every single Bruno Fernandes penalty is a spiritual Panenka anyway, because they're all about... Well, they're not all about, because he's so good. He's good at every type of penalty. He's like, today was the hop, skip and the jump, sit the keeper down, slip it the other way. But when the keeper doesn't go,
steady on,
he
Paul.
Bangs it in the top corner. What?
No,
I don't know what... I don't even know what I said.
No, I mean, you're right. He can hit it clean and hard, can't he? But most of the time, I would say 75% of the time it's disguise, and he did that perfectly today. Unlike Sergio Aguero.
Yeah.
Michael Owen desperately trying to defend that, saying he hit it perfectly. Yeah, Michael. Yeah.
On Match of the Day, they said, Ian Wright said, that's good Panenka. And I was like, what? And he goes, I was thinking, why is he doing this? And then they showed a clip of Gary Lineker doing like a 1 foot high Panenka and the keeper just gathering it up, and the context was set for that particular reference. It's very weird that Aguero tweeted saying he's sorry to everyone for Panenkering. Like, you're all right, mate. You've done... Why does he feel the need to apologise for that?
I hope it's the last significant thing he does for City. I mean, look, it's not like I'm bitter after 2012. But I am.
No, of course not. 9 years ago, by the way.
Yeah.
9 years ago. All very nearly a decade since that happened.
Amazing how time works, isn't it?
But it really, the thing is, like, people always say stuff like that, but it really is amazing how time works. Like, that feels like about a week and a half ago in a way, and also another lifetime all at the same time. So, the first half also feels like a bit like a week and a half ago. The first half of the Villa game.
Yeah.
I mean, United were brilliant for the first 10 minutes of that game. Slick passing. You drew reference to Roberto Carlos.
Yep. It was good intensity, wasn't it? At the beginning of this game, exactly what was needed. Put these villains in their place. But it just didn't last. I mean, I don't know. Like, Villa got into the game, but it felt like United's intensity dropped quite a bit. The passing was slick, yes, fast. They were moving. Shaw was bombing up that left-hand side, got shot in, didn't he? And that was the kind of last significant sort of moment for United in that first half. And then it all kind of drifted away, which was kind of worrying. Although, I don't know, it shouldn't be, should it? Given that United now have 31 points from losing positions this season, which is more than any of the bottom three have got from any position this season. Stunning, really.
I mean, it is absolutely extraordinary, and so much of it away from home as well. Wolves, if we avoid defeat to Wolves on the last day of the season, that's an unbeaten season away from home.
Yeah. Are we going to be the, Invincibles?
Half
Demi-Invincibles or something. Yeah. I mean, it's stunning. Also, actually, if you put in context of the whole season, United lost 3 of the first 6 after they'd had no pre-season. 34 days and 1 pre-season fixture. So everyone was undercooked. So it took the standard 5 or 6 games to get moving. Lost 3 of those first 6, and they've lost 1 since then in the league, and that's to Sheffield United, which was mental as well.
Yeah, exactly. Like it was to Sheffield United, and we was literally robbed. They had a goal that should have been chalked off allowed, and we had a goal that shouldn't have been chalked off.
Right.
Chalked off. So basically, United haven't really properly lost a game since Spurs. No, there was one after that, wasn't there? There was a couple of games later. We lost 1-0 to Arsenal, and that was the last time we kind of actually lost a game.
We've only lost to really dreadful sides this season.
Yeah, that's true.
Palace, Spurs, Arsenal, Sheffield United. In the league, that is. I mean, Europe's slightly different, but yeah.
Yes.
So, I mean, I think that's good positive context for the season as a whole. It's been a season of progression. Whatever happens in these last few games, and they're kind of weird, aren't they? Much in the same way those first few games this season were weird. These last few, Leicester, Liverpool, Fulham, all back-to-back, basically. Oh, no, there's a couple of days for the Fulham, extra days for the Fulham game. Whoa! They might get a slight, rest day. But it wouldn't be surprising if United were turned over against Leicester with a much changed side, or Liverpool on Thursday not needing it so much. Who knows,
Yeah, I mean, Leicester Leicester desperately need it. We'll talk more about that on the backers content. Well, I guess we'll talk about it in the preview of that. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of custom tables from after the Spurs game to the beginning of this game, to the end of this game, in terms of working out what United's actual real season was like.
Yeah, I mean, look, it is hard. The weaknesses in the United side are really obvious, aren't they? And so Joel Glazer, even you know what the weaknesses are, mate. If you really want to apologise, you can start this summer. We won't forgive you, but it's like it's like when you do something wrong, you bring the missus flowers and chocolates, don't you? That's what Joel Glazer needs to do for the fans. It's flowers and the chocolates, and then we'll think about forgiving him, which we won't.
Yeah, we'll talk about the Joel Glazer open letter a bit later in the show, I guess. We'll break it down a bit, because it was absolutely fascinating, but more on that later.
Yeah, but talking, the point is the weaknesses were sort of, one of the big ones in terms of our double pivot and central defence were kind of exposed for the Villa goal, weren't they? Which goes down as a fabulous strike and a really low XG chance, but it's 3 mistakes: the pass from Fred, the miscontrol from McTominay, and the pathetic, I can't think of a better word, absolutely pathetic attempt at clearing it by Victor Lindelof, who wasn't even challenged. I just assumed after it happened that he was just bullied off the ball, because standard Victor Lindelof bullied off the ball. He wasn't. He just expected to be bullied off the ball.
Ex bullied off the ball one.
That's right. And Traore's a decent unit, isn't he? But he's not the biggest, strongest forward there is in the game. It's just, I can't. Victor Lindelof, it's so pathetic.
When I saw the team sheets, my first thought was Douglas Luiz and John McGinn against McFred. That seems like, oh dear, that could be a bit of a problem area. And in fact, Douglas Luiz was not part of that. It was just John McGinn against McFred, because he pressed Fred well. I mean, he was aggressive in the press, but Fred completely panicked and sold McTominay down the river. I mean, say it was a miscontrol, and it was a miscontrol, but it was expecting better. I mean, you shouldn't be put in that position by your teammates, really, should you?
No, we've seen this from Fred before, quite recently, really, when he put a straight one back to Maguire, right? Forgotten the game it was in. But
there was the one also, of course, that he tried to pass back to Henderson, but didn't have enough power on it, that was then scored. But the Lindelof, I mean, that was bad. But that can happen, right? Your midfielders can be pressed off the ball. You don't want them to be, but it can happen. I mean, Fred is just not very good. But Lindelof, like you said, you see that once and you think, okay, well, that's just classic Victor Lindelof. And then you watch the replay and you realise, no, he's had time and space to make a clearance and just got his feet all wrong and tapped it out, thinking that's going to do enough, just doesn't get enough on the ball. Traore can easily gather it. And it's an absolutely brilliant shot from Traore, obviously.
Yes, it's the definition of top bins, that one, isn't it? The postage stamp, where it couldn't be any further into the corner. So it's a great strike, and apart from that, Lindelof would have got away with it, but he didn't. And those mistakes, both systemic because of the way United play with those two deep sitting there invites a lot of shots, but individual errors that we see a lot. We've seen them in key games. We had a long chat in the WhatsApp group before recording about United's defensive record, which is, compared to everyone else, as you rightly pointed out, is pretty good this season. But those kind of individual errors seem to creep in all the time. And we saw it especially in Europe. RB Leipzig game, that Istanbul game, looking very static against Paris Saint-Germain, especially in Europe, it's looked bad. But also in the Premier League, it's 36 goals. It's not horrendous. But it's probably going, assuming that United don't keep 4 clean sheets from here, it'll be the worst defensive record, bar one in the last 6 seasons. So, it's not awesome either.
No, I mean, almost a third of those goals conceded in the first 4 games of the season. Because by the end of that Spurs game, we'd conceded 11. So we've actually, conceded whatever it is, 25 in the last 31 games, which is 0.8 goals a game. If that had included the first 4 games of the season, we'd have conceded 27 for the season. Talking about what a fantastic amount of, and one thing would
be very good. That would be very good. But both this season and in context over the last decade or so. So it's just I can't look at that and not panic sometimes. The individual mistakes. I mean, good on them for trying to keep possession by playing the ball out short all of the time. One of the lowest, launching it percentages in the Premier League, United. But they don't half make me panic when the other team press them. I mean, I think they think they're a lot better at playing the ball out than they really are.
But there's a real gap between perception and reality when it comes to the United season, and I can't work out which one is right. Because even the underlying data is not. It doesn't. I mean, United are slightly outperforming stuff, but there's nothing statistically freakish about what's happening. Like, United are creating about the same number of chances as they're scoring. They're conceding about the same number of chances that they're conceding, within a kind of completely reasonable range. And, as you rightly pointed out, the thing that happened after the Spurs game was the whole rest of the season, he's played with a double pivot to protect almost the whole rest of the season, to protect that kind of wobbly central defender. I was going to say back four, but it's not back four, is it? It's wobbly central defenders. But the thing is, there's been no cost to that in terms of the output for the season, because we're outscoring everyone except City. So, the only teams that conceded fewer than us are City and Chelsea, and only City have outscored us, which is absolutely remarkable. And it just shows you, I mean, I think this team is starting to look reasonably well coached in a way, but it's just the absolute gigantic amount of quality in forward position. I mean, today, all 3 goals in one way or another were moments of brilliant quality. Pogba did excellently to win the free kick, the penalty, sorry. Fernandez's penalty is of an extremely high technical standard. I know it's a penalty, but still. The Mason Greenwood goal is absolutely exceptional in the sense that you just never see that. You never see a player, a striker, screen a defender and then hit the ball that quickly out of his feet with that much power and precision into. I mean, that's different gravy, isn't it? I mean, Mason Greenwood is different gravy.
He is, and he's had a very good second half of the season, or last third of the season, however you want to put it. But it's become his sort of trademark, hasn't it? Getting it out of his feet really quickly and hitting it early, and it seems to deceive goalkeepers all the time. I mean, you could say he's beaten Martinez at the near post there, but he's just hit it so early and so cleanly, with so much power that's what's done the keeper, and I think it would do most keepers. Yeah. So and look, 3 excellent goals, as you say. Pogba did really well. I mean, Luiz had 3 attempts at fouling him. And then he was moaning, but the other Villa players were moaning as well, but moaning at Luiz, not at the ref. I mean, it's just the most obvious pen. And Pogba tries to stay on his feet as well. And then he's barely up, and he gives him another shove through the backside. I mean, it's really, really bad. And then put away nicely. And then we get...
The third goal. the third goal, Rashford, who had been pretty bad, like
especially with those last third decision making.
Exactly. I was just going to say, absolutely brilliant, more or less, up to the final ball a lot of the time. Like his movement had been good, his running on the ball had been good, his dribbling had been good, but he was really struggling with those the last third execution, really. And he puts in a beautiful, beautiful cross, and Edinson Cavani is just absolutely class. He's such a good centre forward. It's unreal.
But, sorry to zoom out a little bit, but how criminal was it that United waited all bloody summer to sign this guy? So, he's basically only played for us since October, and he wasn't fit because he'd been out for months. And it's taken him a few months to get fit, and he's had a few niggles on along the way. And now the form we're seeing now is what we could have had basically all season if they'd signed him in June, like they could have done.
Yeah. And no word on his contract, but the tea leaves are looking good, apparently, currently.
Tea leaves are looking good, yeah. I mean, a lot of chat from journalists. It seems the offer from Boca is for an extra year than United are offering. But presumably United's wage offer is substantially greater. Yeah.
And Edinson Cavani never playing in front of a packed Old Trafford would be a crime against football because, that guy is so beloved by United fans at this point because he's offered something that we've needed for such a long time. The natural comparison in terms of the last few years is Ibrahimovic, right? Because this high-profile striker, formerly of Paris Saint-Germain, in the sort of I was going to say twilight ember of his career, but somehow Zlatan is still scoring 100 goals a season and is going to play in the Euros this summer, but he's a strange character. But my personal affection for Edinson Cavani is so much greater than it is for Zlatan. I remember when we did the backers content after Zlatan left of every goal he'd scored, and they were such high quality, those goals on average. The average quality of them was, it was outstanding, but he didn't make the team better. Him being there made it more likely we'd win games, but he rarely made the team look like it was playing better. But Cavani makes the team tons better.
Yeah, that's true. And it was true of Lukaku as well, wasn't it? One of the reasons why Oli shifted him out, despite all the goals he scored. His record in Italy is now better than his record at United. Despite all of that, it's because he was looking for a particular sort of dynamic up front, which Lukaku couldn't give, and Ibrahimovic didn't either. And if United signed Haaland, he might not either. He's a phenomenal goal scorer, but one of the reasons, so it is said, I don't have this on any kind of authority other than speculation, that Dortmund might be not unhappy to lose him at some point, is that he doesn't make the team better. So it's like signing Cavani on for another season will be excellent. It's a shame he's not 5 or 6 years younger because it's kind of kicking the problem down the road for another year or so. But it's exactly what United must do, and it doesn't.
Yeah, and almost there is a solution in the works because Mason Greenwood, with another year under Cavani's wing, you can see the relationship between the two of them. When against Roma, when they were starting on Greenwood and Cavani was straight in there to take him out as if he hadn't damaged Roma enough spiritually. He wanted to do it physically as well. By the way, we haven't even... Backers, stay tuned for the news that we haven't had a chance to cover yet on the podcast regarding Roma and their spectacularly strange decision-making vis-a-vis managerial appointments. Thank you for giving us another season of content. What channel shows La Liga? I'm going to have to find out, right? Anyway.
Serie A, yeah.
Oh, yeah, sorry, Serie A, that's what I meant to say. But yeah, there's a relationship between the two of them, and if Greenwood can spend a year growing under Cavani as a kind of understudy centre forward and regular inside forward, this is that's potentially then Cavani leaves and Greenwood is ready to be United's number 9.
Yeah, but potentially, yeah. There's a lot of question marks there, aren't there? But so much talent in the works there, and that's one of the things that's obviously saved United's season or marked United's season is the amount of talent there. Rashford's not had as good a season as last season, I'd say. A lot of that feels like his body is about to collapse. Even today, he was hobbling around with what looked like a knee problem. Cavani, as we've said, has come good in the second half of the season. A lot of that to do with fitness. Mason had a slow start to the season, and actually Martial, we barely mentioned him because he's injured. He's just had an absolutely dreadful season. And normally, if he wasn't, Joel Glazer's favourite son, and we didn't know what Martial could do, you'd be looking at shipping a player like that out. But we know there's potential there, don't we? And he's getting into his mid-20s now, so talking about potential feels a bit redundant, doesn't it?
Exactly. But the thing is, it's not. We know because last season he scored 20+ goals. Did he get 20 league goals? No way. But he scored 20+ goals across the season and 15 league goals or something. Like, it was a really good season, 1 in 2. And yeah, so I don't know. We'll see what happens there. But given the selection dilemmas, assuming Pogba stays, assuming Pogba continues to be used in this position where, he is clearly at his best in the position that he's currently playing. And I was thinking about this today. One of the things that was so vital to his time at Juventus and how phenomenally successful he was, people talk a lot about the midfield quartet he played alongside as part of. But the key kind of on-pitch relationship of his time at Juventus was his relationship with Patrice Evra, who was kind of fullback in inverted commas, but, basically a left winger. And him and Pogba just dominated that flank. And you've got that here in spades. You've got Pogba and Luke Shaw kind of redoing that double act effectively to tremendous effect.
Yes. And it's awesome that Solskjaer has found a way to get Pogba and Fernandes in the same side because they make stuff happen. Fernandes... Last 8 games coming into this one, he had 1 goal, 1 assist, which kind of says, it's been a bit quiet for him, and I do think that's a lot of that's to do with, although across the season he's creating more chances than anyone else.
Yeah, is that in the league or is that in everything?
In league, league.
Yeah, because he did well against Roma, didn't he?
But it kind of backs up the eye test really, which feels like he lost a little bit of his mojo. And I think
but it feels like it's back.
Yeah.
It feels like it's back. I'd say the last 3 games, maybe since the first leg against Roma.
Maybe that's right.
Fernandes has felt like Fernandes to me.
Yeah. I mean, he plays far too much. I mean, he plays every single minute, basically. Yeah. And Solskjaer clearly doesn't trust Van der Beek or anyone else to play in that position. Understandable given Fernandes' numbers, but... he played him a lot last season, felt like he was burning out towards the end of the season, and there was the sort of hints of that this season. Hopefully he's coming through it. It's going to be a tough last few games, but he's just going to have to man up and take on these last 5 games and have his 2 days break before he gets to the Euros, I guess.
Well, you say man up. I mean, he just has to remain exactly as he has continued to be at all points, saying, like, literally screaming at the manager for being substituted with 10 minutes left in games when we were winning by multiple goals because he's so annoyed about being taken off the pitch. Like, this guy is obsessed with playing.
His default emotion is anger at something, isn't it? And it works well for him.
I wonder, because he sort of been saying, like, when I was a kid, I'd play for 7 or 8 hours and I wouldn't get tired. So how can I be tired now? And it's like, well, I mean, biomechanics, like, children have a different relationship with energy to adults and, lots of different reasons why that.
Also, when he was a child, he was not competing at elite levels where,
although
1 or 2% difference in physical output is quite big.
Yeah, although I do imagine that when he was a child, he was competing with an insane fervour and will to win, because I don't think that's a new thing for him. The attacking unit functioned excellently in the second half of that game once again, and it is, at some point it'll go wrong. I mean, you can't imagine that next season we're going to go through the whole season losing 1-0 every first half and winning every game. Like, that's probably not going to happen. And we've talked a lot about the things that are needed to make this team genuine title challenges. I mean, it is funny that we're kind of constantly delaying City winning the league. Just, one like by having a fight a week ago and today by,
Hey,
going 1-0
look,
down.
it's still on. We beat Leicester and Liverpool and City lose to Newcastle on Friday night. Whoa. They'll be getting nervous at Main Road. No, Main Road. Only 15 years out of date, that one.
Those are some gigantic ifs, aren't they?
They are.
Yeah.
They are. But you're right. Like, a lot of a nice attacking play, particularly in the sort of first 15 minutes and the second half of the game. 18 shots today, which is a good number, and United were good value for the win in the end. It didn't look like it for a certain period of that game, did it? I mean, especially with Villa pressing well and United struggling with that a little bit, which is another weakness, which is fairly obvious, and many teams try to exploit it. But that front four functioned really well, and Edson came up to mop up again.
There's this, that meme format that's grown in the last few months where it's like a thing and then it's subdivided, like this bit of this, it's done with movies and songs and pints of beer and all sorts of things. And someone did it with a United match and it's like first 10 minutes, oh, this is pretty good. Oh, we're 1-0 down. And the third one is, oh God, I hate this club. We're so useless. Please save us, Bruno. And then the last segment is, yes, we've done it again, lads. We're going to win the league, which is like, this is, that's a meme that I saw that weeks ago. And today, you could almost track it to the minute by those exact brackets. Like it's a remarkably consistent pattern in an inconsistent and strange season that United have been good at the beginning of games, lose it, go 1-0 down. Bruno does something that starts the ball rolling, and then we end up playing really fantastic attacking football at some point in games and blowing a lot of teams away. And not only, there's multiple times recently where we've been 1-0 down at half time and won 3-1. It's not even like, and also the other thing that happens is whenever it's 2-1, we look like we're about to clown show it and concede. Like that happened today. And that the third goal in the comebacks is the biggest relief in the world right now, because it's like, oh, thank God, there's a Lindelof buffer.
Yeah, well, that's right. Matic comes on and you're like, God. Comes on to secure up the defence.
But that's worked twice recently. I can't remember if it was, I was going to say if it was the last league game, but that was weeks ago. So it must have been against Roma.
And when you say weeks ago, 4 days ago or something, I mean, it's like, just insane this season, the amount of football.
When did we last played a league game 2 weeks ago,
2 weeks
right?
ago.
Yeah. And then since then, we've played the 2 games against Roma.
Yes.
The Liverpool game didn't happen, and then there was this.
It did not.
I mean,
I wonder if Thursday's Liverpool game will happen. There's certainly some people who are hell-bent on making sure it doesn't, but we'll see.
I mean, that's fascinating. Should we just take a quick pause and then talk about Roma, or should we crack
Let's do it. Quick pause. We'll be with you for Roma. All right. So, yeah, Roma, I mean, I guess we don't need to talk loads about it. United had such a big cushion that I did wonder what kind of performance we'd get.
Bad. Turns out very, very bad is the one that we got.
Mainly bad. Yeah, I mean, we talked a bit about poor old Donny not getting time on the pitch. He doesn't do himself any good, does he? When he does have time on the pitch, I don't think I can think of a performance where I've thought, yeah, that's the player that very nearly joined Real Madrid before they realised that the cheque would bounce, and ended up at United, and he was so good in that season where Ajax were robbed by Tottenham and should have made the Champions League final. And we've seen none of that from him. And he was particularly bad in this game against Roma. So were the back four. Eric Bailly, we talk about an awful lot. Not sure he did himself loads of favours in this game. I mean,
Well, they were all right in the first half, and then Solskjaer took off the 2 fullbacks, and then it completely fell apart.
Right.
Like Dave made one big save in the first half, but by the end of the 2 legs, United's XG was 5.2, and this is about the pens, 5.2, and Roma's was 4.2. Roma got so many XGs in that game that they almost caught up. I mean, United got a few too. But David De Gea made so many saves from close range in that game. It was absolutely ridiculous. Because by the time it's 3-1, you're wobbling. It's an actual wobble, but it nearly turned into oh my God, the brickwork's collapsing around my ears kind of wobble in that second half.
Yeah, Roma had 12 shots from inside the penalty spot from 12 yards out.
That's unbelievable.
I mean, nearly 5 XG from Roma. United they were just all over the place defensively, especially, as you say, especially that second half. You're absolutely right. The fullback changes were the key ones, and Alex Telles, we've learned a little bit about him this season. I mean, we've learned that he likes whipping a ball in, and he's just not very good defensively. Brandon Williams, though, that's the big disappointment, really, isn't it? He's so talented, and we expected him to do so much more. We spent a lot of time on this pod last season complaining that he wasn't in the side ahead of Luke Shaw.
That's incredible. I think
feels
even
incredible now.
I think this season we might have talked about that at the beginning of this season. It's incredible.
He was supposed to get a loan to Southampton. In the end, that didn't materialise because they wanted the extra fullback cover for Wan-Bissaka. But Wan-Bissaka's played over 50 games this season, and Luke Shaw's Brandon Williams has not got a sniff. I don't know what's happening behind the scenes. It feels like there must be something. He's too talented a player to not get any game time at all, basically.
But Solskjaer just doesn't like having a plan B. I mean, he doesn't like he likes his plan A, and he'll adapt plan A when he absolutely has to change it. But and what's remarkable is actually how well the fitness of these players has held up. I mean, we've talked about our kind of frustration, in particular with Rashford and Fernandes, the way the two of them have been handled, but their output has just been almost sustained with a brief kind of dip from Bruno. But Rashford's output has barely dipped at all. I mean, maybe he hasn't, so...
Not quite the same numbers as last season, but still decent.
Still really good.
Yeah, I mean, look, you're right. Solskjaer talks about it all the time. He talks about the fitness and his plan to get them fitter, and his pod on... God, we didn't talk about that. His press conference ahead of this game was pretty dreadful in terms of his whitewashing of... You didn't see it, right? So... there's two parts of the press conference. One's the public press conference, and then one's the written press conference, which is behind closed doors. So the Times had a whole bunch of quotes from the written press conference, which was basically backed up what he said in the public one, where he talked about a little bit about fitness, as I was mentioning, and the periodization that they're trying to do, especially with the players that don't play so often. It's hard to periodize when you're playing every 48 hours. Or impossible, in fact. But then the whole, obviously there were an awful lot of questions about the protests, and basically he just trotted out the company line, which is, everyone has a right to protest, but when it spills over into violence and it becomes a police matter, then it's too far, which is like trying to make this equivalence to say that protest was all about violence, which it absolutely wasn't.
Nope.
I have to say I was pretty disappointed by that, but not surprised. I mean, he's obviously extremely grateful that he's got a job and got his dream job, in the most unexpected of circumstances. So he's going to defend his employers, as did Fergie, as do, I guess, most managers in those kind of situations. But it wasn't wholly impressive, I have to say.
Well, Solskjaer's rarely wholly impressive, is he? And this is within the context of, I think his achievements have been extremely impressive, but he rarely comes across as, I don't know, it's rare that he comes across as truly impressive. He often comes across as slightly thin-skinned, slightly winging it, all of these kinds of things, all of which are, he clearly is impressing the players because these players are playing their hearts out for this guy. There's, this is very evident. So that's the actually important thing, not that he impresses some chumps on a podcast, But
Yeah, well, I guess so. Although we're churning out a pod's worth of chumps talking about football on a podcast every week. So got to talk about something anyway. That was a brief segue into. I didn't feel great about that, I have to say.
Well, let's.
But I'm feeling good about this team and its progression.
Yeah.
I'm the cynical little chap on my shoulder chatting in my ear, saying what we really need to progress the next time around is saying that's not going to happen. But we'll see. Maybe they'll surprise me. Maybe Joel will after his heartfelt letter he sent out this week.
I mean, listen, if we're not humble enough to say that this team can surprise us, we're not paying attention to what we do. At the end of last season and the beginning of this season, I said last season would be an excellent transition season if it was backed up, but I didn't think it'd be backed up. I don't think either of us had United close to finishing second in our season preview. So they continue to be better than we expect them to be. And that could happen again.
And so some of that could happen again. I don't know whether it means we'll be surprised about how far they go forward. That would surprise me, but they've surprised me with the consistency of the results for sure. It's been helped a little bit by the inevitable Mourinho Tottenham meltdown and Chelsea now performing, I think, to the standard of the quality of players that they have in a way they didn't for Lampard and now are for Tuchel, who's a very pragmatic manager and has kind of taken the decision to make sure Chelsea don't concede, and they're getting great results as a result.
Yeah, and our league position's been helped by Liverpool being rubbish too, but we've won 20 out of our 34 games. We've lost 4 games, we've lost fewer games than City.
Honestly, that is incredible. That is incredible, and touch wood, that's all it is this season. I mean, God, it's a big ask in the next 2 games coming up not to lose any, just given the amount of kind of physical output they've had to give. Just playing. I mean, when did they have a break? These players,
they haven't had a break.
It's not often.
Yeah.
It's just I mean, you just expect burnout. Maybe they'll surprise us because everyone else expects burnout as well.
Yeah.
Although Liverpool have had more time off recently.
Yeah, as of Leicester. So let's talk about, before we talk about Joel Glazer's letter, there's 2 pieces of communication I wanted to talk about out of the club. One was the club's statement, which really wound me up. The statement on, I think it was Monday. Now, I understand why the club have to condemn the fans who broke into the stadium. Of course they do. Of course they have to say, we can't accept this as an institution. I mean, that's just completely straightforward. The one thing that really bothered me, though, is that they specified the fans' violence towards the police, which I agree was bad. It needed one more line, and we condemn, and if it's proven to be the case, we of course condemn any violence from the police towards our fans. Because this is like, why is the club, the institution, on the side, inherently on the side of the police in a battle between the police? And this is one of the things where the nature of ownership of a club is really significant. Why is the club on the same? Why is that the default, that the club and the police are in lockstep on this? Why aren't the fans? Why isn't the club advocating for the way that the fans were treated by the police as much as the way the police were treated by the fans?
Yeah, well, we know the answer. One, because there's an assumption that police are there to protect property from some kind of superficial damage, and the 2 is this is not a club that has ever thought it is on the side of the fans, or that we are anything other than customers to be exploited, and to get their average revenue up from. So that's why. And they're going to take a strong line because I guess they will see internally that they can't be seen to be condoning like invasion of the ground, right, and postponing games. But
they can't.
I guess no, they can't. But the other thing to do is not be absolutely hypocritical and absolutely completely transparent in their PR nonsense. How many who believed that letter from Joel Glazer that came out? Who? What is the audience that is written for? Not by Joel Glazer, by the way, but by some PR flunkies. Sorry, PR flunkies, if you're listening. But, it's just pathetic, that one. He says, as one of the few European clubs listed on the stock exchange, we're, of course, in favour of fans owning shares. Of course they are, because if fans go buy a bunch of shares in the structure they're in now, it pushes the share price up and makes the Glazers even richer. Gives fans zero power, zero control, and zero say. Of course they'd love that. You absolute gimp. I mean, like, what idiot falls for that nonsense? And to believe, after not bothering to consult not the fans, nor the institutions in football, the FA, the Premier League, UEFA, nor the manager, nor the players, we're supposed to believe they're like deeply, heartfeltly sorry now. Of course they're not. They're sorry because they got caught. And a populist government decided to push back publicly. It really could have gone the other way, couldn't it? It could have gone the other way if it was if it was slightly different circumstances politically. And I think that's the thing that made this all turn. So I don't believe for a moment that there's any feeling of sorrow other than they saw dollar signs in front of their eyes and they're not getting it now. And like, I don't know whether there is, because obviously this is a particular type of fan, legacy fan, as Perez put it, that is protesting at Old Trafford. I don't know whether the feelings towards the Super League and the Glazer ownership is, markedly different out there in the world. And we have to recognise that Manchester United is a global institution now with millions of fans, or over 1 billion if you believe the club's spin. Whether that's different, but man, who is going to fall for that?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all of what you just said. Like, every single word. This isn't a precursor to saying but. Well, I am going to say but not to disagree with literally a word of what you said. Like, that you'd have to be I don't know, you'd have to be the most kind of Pollyanna-esque, like, doe-eyed optimist in the universe to believe that the emotional language that was used, I mean, I was personally humbled by parts of your letter. This is a reply to a letter from the fans forum, as you explained so clearly why our initial support for the European Super League left you feeling angry and let down. I would like to reiterate my sincere apology for the mistakes that were made. There's not an iota of me that believes that that's accurate, because this is exactly the apology of someone who is hoping that saying they're sorry will do the job, because it's transparently obvious that if they cared about what the fans thought, they could have, asked the fans what they thought. So that's
in the years of planning.
Exactly.
Oh, we just accidentally stumbled into this thing. We weren't really sure what was happening. Which has been the line from Chelsea and City as well, and Arsenal, by the way. Tottenham haven't said anything because they were just happy to be invited. They were like, what? Yeah. You're going to invite us?
Too busy sacking Jose Mourinho as well. But the thing about this letter that is actually interesting is its existence. This is the thing that is interesting. And the straight up, in black and white, promise to invest in the stadium and the training ground. Like, just straight up, just said, I can't find it off the top of my head, but just straight up saying that they're planning to change the way that they engage with the fans, support the government's whatever, the thing that the government are doing. I mean, it's nonsense, but just we recognise that we will need to significantly increase the investment in Old Trafford and our training complex in order to ensure that the club's facilities remain among the best in Europe. As part of this,
remain. That's an interesting use of that word.
Well, it's like rebuilding trust. He's good at using words like that. As part of this, we will consult with fans on investments related to the stadium and the matchday experience. And now, this is evidence of direct action working, right? He would not be saying this if United fans hadn't got to the point of stopping a game going ahead. This is people who are absolutely, genuinely shook by the power of the direct action. It's worth saying that I don't know for sure that this is true, but I was told that 4 armoured transport vehicles accompanied United's coach to the airport to get to the Roma game. Like, they are shooketh. They are like, I mean, you mentioned...
Not since the Glazer vehicle coming into Old Trafford was literally shooketh.
Yeah, right.
Have they been so... shooketh?
Yeah.
Yes. No. Look, I do agree with that. I mean, it is direct action, and they have been moved to at least write a completely disingenuous letter, which they haven't bothered to do since 2005. Yeah. So couldn't even be bothered with that in the past. So
yeah, we've made some progress.
They have instructed their PR monkeys to do some PR monkeying.
Well, they've made a firm font. They've made a in black and white promise to the fans forum that there'll be investment in the training ground and the stadium.
Yes, but no details. No,
I mean, of course,
and of course the spin, because this line has come out in many press reports, is they have been investing in the stadium, and there has literally been investment. They've added some new seats in parts, and especially when they had to change the logo in the Stretford end from Nike to Adidas. They've had to keep the especially the kind of boxes and commercial areas up to date, because that's competition. It's not just competition for getting fans into seats, but it's competition with all the other clubs around the country that have that kind of corporate sponsorship and entertainment.
Particularly City, like just
yeah, and particularly City, yeah. But all of the big clubs, because that's what they're really, it's like corporate entertainment. It's not fans going to games. So that has been invested in. They had to invest in new disabled areas because of Premier League regulations. So they reconfigured a lot of what was the K-stand as a result of that. So, some of the investments were absolutely necessary and forced on them. But Old Trafford, many parts of Old Trafford is an old ground. It's tight. It's 100 years old, some of it, especially the south stand hasn't really changed like in forever, basically. The north stand is now 25 years old. And so there are parts of Old Trafford that are old and haven't been updated. The roof famously leaks, as we all saw.
Yep.
And so that is all true. United haven't, and I suspect won't go down the route of doing a major refurb or a rebuild. Arsenal, Tottenham rebuilds, major refurb at Liverpool. Obviously, City got their free ground, which was good for them, and so did West Ham. And on the continent, Real Madrid are spending 300 to 400 million euros on completely refurbishing the Bernabeu, which, as we were talking on the Backers pod last time out, is going to look completely spectacular. They can't afford it, but, by the by. So, United have fallen behind in terms of, developing Old Trafford. It hasn't developed at all since the Glazers arrived. As we mentioned, the quadrants were pre-signed off. I guess they could have stopped it and didn't, but at the time they were actually focused on squeezing more money out of fans, so they probably saw the return on investment case for that one. Whereas now, dumping 100 to 150 million in building over the train tracks and increasing the capacity of the ground and improving facilities, it just doesn't make sense for them, I guess.
One of the things that I think is kind of interesting, and at some point we will have the Peter Lim, Valencia, Salford, Gary Neville conversation about his the level to which he probably is complicit in doing some not dissimilar things to the things he's absolutely,
absolutely against. Yeah. Salford are the Manchester City of the lower leagues, aren't they?
Yeah, although he's never expressed any discomfort with the idea of a new owner coming in and putting millions in. But anyway, I wonder how much the gloves being completely off there has shifted the conversation, just because the tone around the Glazers has gone. I mean, we talked about Souness last week. I've just come off Twitter for a bit, and I think I'm going to stay off it for as long as I possibly can. But I tweeted on Monday after not tweeting over the weekend previously. Just Souness shouldn't have a job anymore, because he's on Sky Sports, literally conveying misinformation to millions of people as if it's fact. Someone picked up that perhaps there was a problem with me saying that, given that I spout extreme left-wing politics on a podcast, and to which I would reply, you want to meet someone who's actually extremely left-wing, and also opinion and misinformation are not the same. I've never willingly lied on this podcast about a fact, whereas, Souness literally talked about the Glazers putting up collateral to buy United, which they literally did not. Like, the collateral they put up was Man United. Like, that's how leveraged buyouts work, kids. But yeah.
Yes, I mean, look, he's spouting nonsense. Gary Neville's position, doesn't chime super well with his partial ownership of Salford. There was an interesting profile over the weekend about FC United. I can't remember which publication I was reading it in, maybe in The Athletic, and contrasting that because, of course, they were in the same division not that long ago. And then the investment has made a big difference to Salford's position, obviously. Yeah. So, it's not the same thing, but does it square very neatly with his opinions on how the Glazers run their club?
He does, because he's saying that the problem is underinvestment and leeching off the club, which is obviously not what they're doing at Salford. So
No, right. They're benevolent dictators.
Peter Lim at Valencia,
the perfect
though.
model. Yes, interesting. Yes, yeah. I mean, he pulled his support somewhat, didn't he? And it's been a difficult time for Valencia, and they're selling players to Manchester City all the time. Anyway, another piece of news, related news this week, the Hut Group, which is sort of multi-brand food and other stuff, fitness equipment and protein powders and that kind of stuff, pulled their £200 million 10-year sponsorship of United's training kit and training ground this week over fan protests.
I mean, that's mad.
I don't know how... it's 20 million a season. It's a significant chunk of change, isn't it? It's that would have nearly 10% of United's commercial revenues. Commercial revenues 279 last time out. They're going to go down though, because the team viewer shirt sponsorship deal is quite a bit lower. I mean, nearly £15 million a season lower than the Chevrolet deal. United's commercials are under pressure. It's been flat for 5 years anyway, completely tapped out there. All the genius of the Glazers sort of regional, genius in quote marks. You can't see that because it's a podcast. Is old hat now. Everyone's caught up and surpassed United. So, this is big. It's not just the symbolism of a major new sponsor pulling out because of direct action, but it's a big chunk of change that means something to the Glazer family's model.
The other thing that's kind of interesting, because the different businesses would have a very different relationship with a threat of fan boycott. Like, I'm sure Adidas are not in the slightest bit bothered by the idea of a United fan boycott. The scale of the point of branding for Adidas is very different for the point of branding for the Hut Group or TeamViewer, right? TeamViewer are a company that loads of us had never even heard of before they got the United sponsorship deal. And they're trying to make themselves really visible to a big new audience, taking a massive gamble. The geezer who set up, their share price tanked, right? He didn't get sacked. The share price tanked because it was such a big bet. And then their Trustpilot reviews took one hell of a beating. Those have been restored now. But for a company like that, that's the last thing you want from you. You don't want an association with a brand that might be tainted and toxic, that the people who you're trying to attract by engaging with that brand are going to be actively turned off your product by you engaging with that brand. And given that the sponsors that we are getting are TeamViewer and the Hut Group, like, two things I've never heard of are sponsoring United's shirt, and they were going to be sponsoring the training ground and the training kit. I mean, that's a serious, where we're at as a kind of attractiveness proposition. The only big money is in companies taking a big swing.
It's absolutely. It's been a while since United signed an A1 premium brand as a sponsor. Yeah, they are squeezing as much blood out of this stone as they can, but it's the relative lack of success on the pitch. We've argued about whether that makes a big difference. Ed Woodward said no, it makes no difference at all. But the pushback on Woodward's analysis there is that is the order of magnitude. Yes, United, like 279 million, is still the biggest in the Premier League in terms of commercial revenues. It might not be next season, by the way. City pulling an awful lot of commercial revenues these days. Some of it, quite a bit of it, related parties. So
all right.
Much like Paris Saint-Germain's sponsors, all beginning with Q. And Bayern Munich's too, by the way. But hey, different argument. So look, it's that argument that success doesn't matter. It's been challenged when you're going off to C-list brands and ones that are really hoping to make a name for themselves. On the counter, is that United's argument that the club's sort of brand reach and loyalty around the world really makes a difference to those brands that wants to make a global splash. Yeah. So what Chevrolet wanted to do matters, and they're still making that argument, and there are still sponsors that buy that argument. Now, if you're associated, have all that reach, and it's a tainted brand because the fans are rioting and are deeply unhappy with the owners, then there's a big question mark there.
Yeah. Now, of course, they'll be able to find another sponsor. Might be less money, but there is a cat among the pigeons. This is not nothing. They got Man United, Liverpool pulled off the telly, and we didn't really talk about this, but what came out in the aftermath of the conversation and the brilliant episode of Second Captains, where there was a journalist who was at the Lowry with that group of fans, describing the people at the Lowry as, well, we knew this, of course, but they were the organised hardcore that were absolutely determined to get this match called off. That was the goal of the protest, and everything that happened at Old Trafford was essentially a smokescreen for the real point of this protest, which was to make sure that we decide when you play that banner that was taken to the training ground, that wasn't an idle threat. That was a kind of statement of intent for a genuine attempt to reclaim some aspect of the ownership of this club.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, it's obviously more than a week past that protest now, but well worth listening to that Second Captains episode if you haven't already. Excellent details there, and again a lot of detail in the Athletic as well, amongst about the different aspects of fan groups and which bits were organised and which bits were kind of instinctive. I think storming Old Trafford was instinct, wasn't it? Good instinct. Don't break stuff, lads, but getting on the pitch,
break some stuff, but.
Yeah, I know. I mean, look, it really doesn't
whatever.
matter. It doesn't. Don't break people.
Yeah, definitely.
But, breaking a couple of doors, which are probably moulding anyway. Yeah, whatever. But yes, the lads at the Lowry had a plan.
Yeah,
and we now know executed on it very well. Of which, to segue into this week's games, there is apparently another plan for Thursday's game against Liverpool at Old Trafford. We'll see. I presume United will be a bit more organised in terms of their security planning, and there's some kind of 12-foot concrete wall now being built around Old Trafford to make sure fans are not able to do that. I doubt the team will be staying at the Lowry beforehand.
Yeah, but of course, Manchester's not it's a big city, and it's not a big city, isn't it? Everyone's gonna know where United are staying. That's not.
Yeah, information gets around. Yeah, maybe they're staying in Jose's old flat in the Keys.
Well, no, wasn't that? That was the Lowry. He just stayed at the Lowry the whole time he was there.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Who had it? Was it LVG who had the apartment?
Yeah, might well have
on
been.
The water. Yeah.
But yeah, so we'll see what happens. I mean, the Leicester game, and Leicester are in an absolute state. The fact that they were 4-0, I mean, they lost that game 4-2, which sort of looks bad but not atrocious, but they were 4-0 down with 15 minutes to go in that. Or it might even been later than that Leicester scored their first. So, I mean, they got hammered by Newcastle United. Newcastle, we were talking about them probably going down not that long ago, and they absolutely destroyed Leicester. It's happening again, and it's only the sort of West Ham lost today. Brendan Rodgers must have been doing cartwheels watching West Ham lose to Everton, because this game has taken on slightly less importance for them, but it was going to be, if West Ham had won today, you'd be in must-win territory for that game.
Yeah, I mean, it's still difficult for Leicester. They play us obviously, it helps Leicester that United are playing a lot of games at the moment. They then play Spurs and they play Chelsea. So, Spurs are in a mess, as we saw at the weekend. So, who knows where that will go? But Chelsea obviously in fine form at the moment, depending on what kind of side they want to play by the end there. But yeah, it's looking really secure most of the season. That Champions League spot for Leicester definitely doesn't now, and it's a big blow for West Ham today. But Liverpool and Chelsea looking, in decent form. And obviously United are going to have a lot to say about, especially Leicester and Liverpool in the week to come. Ollie was asked about it, said he's not bothered. It's not his problem who gets into the Champions League. And absolutely right. He only has to worry about United and today's victory. Champions League was all but secured anyway. I think do we only need a point against Leicester to do it? Something like that. I mean, it's all but secured, but second place is looking pretty good, I'd say.
Yeah, we're gonna have to kind of blow it not to get second, and I think we might finish second even if we lose both of these games, which we might well do. And I don't mean that in a sort of doomy, gloomy, defeatist kind of way. I almost feel like, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because you've got the sort of physical challenge of it. When you looked at it mapped out from the second leg of Roma, where we were playing Thursday, Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, it's this week that's the peak physical challenge, isn't it? Because next week we're playing Tuesday and then Sunday, I think. Let me just make sure I'm not doing as soon as and spouting literal misinformation on our podcast.
Yeah, well, Leicester Tuesday, Liverpool Thursday, break over the weekend, Fulham on the Tuesday,
Wolves on the Sunday,
and Wolves on the Sunday. So they at least get 4 days off or 5 days off or whatever it is.
Yeah, that's been the rhythm of the whole season, hasn't it? So we've got this situation where it's this week that's absolutely crucial. It's worth saying, of course, after Wolves on the Sunday, it is the Thursday that week, right? That
Wednesday that week. The Wednesday that week, yeah. Villarreal, I mean, they're still competing in La Liga for just a slight tangent, but Villarreal are still competing in La Liga for a Europa League spot. They've got a good chance of getting that. They're in one of those spots now. So they do have some consequential games. They played Real Madrid on the final day of the season, so I don't know whether there'll be big advantage for United. And we'll see how the results for Villarreal they can rest all their players and week on. I mean, hey, maybe United will be in such a good position by the final day that the second string and some kids, whoever can come out the right bubble, can play against Wolves on the final day. We'll see.
Yeah.
But I mean, beating Leicester on Tuesday would go a hell of a long way to then be able to rest everyone for the league games for the final 3 games.
But although Ole has said he doesn't care who qualifies, we all want Leicester to get there ahead of Liverpool, right? So really, play the weakened team on the Tuesday and fully go for it on the Thursday. That's but also that almost makes sense.
The morally correct thing to do.
Exactly. But it also might be the kind of physiologically correct thing to do, because the players that have just played today, Tuesday will be the day when you'd really be damaging them. If they play again on Thursday, that's kind of all right. It kind of makes sense to say, okay, Leicester is the one with the big rotation, and Liverpool is the game with where you're really looking to play everyone. He might try and play everyone in both games. I don't think that's impossible. Not quite everyone, but most everyone, maybe one or two changes.
It's a smallish group anyway. I mean, it's not like he can do a Fergie and pull out all the kids for, as Fergie used to do in the Carling Cup. You can't do it. They're different bubbles. So they'd have to make that decision now. In fact, they've almost certainly, I'm sure Ollie has basically decided his team for Tuesday and his team for Thursday. And I think there will be heavy rotation. I know he's against it, but there has to be some of these players who are right on the edge, especially Marcus. You'd think Bruno as well will be in the danger zone for an injury. He doesn't seem to get injured, but this would be a big disaster for him to get injured. Maguire will get enforced rest.
Yeah, he looked. I mean, Solskjaer said we're not sure if it's days or weeks yet. For that one, it looked pretty nasty.
Did. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's more like, is he going to be fit for the Europa League final more than is he going to play a part in the league, I suspect.
Yeah, and he might not which will mean a big call in the games to come. I mean, Eric Bailly will get some games now, which he's been asking for, and he'll have to show us he's good enough to take over from Harry Maguire.
It's just such a shame because it's so obvious that Bailly and Maguire is the best of United central defensive partnerships that are possible. But anyway, all right.
Anyway,
I'm going to predict that we draw 1-1 with Leicester, and that the Liverpool game doesn't happen.
I was going to ask you that. Yeah, what are your thoughts on us getting any minutes? I mean, look, if the Liverpool game doesn't happen, we're in really deep, troubling territory there. So I think the Premier League took the view that United were not at fault for the game being called off last time out. They might take a different view if it was called off again. Yeah. I'm very much for protest, and I think direct action was important. We'll see. I don't know whether it would be a good thing if it happened again. I think Leicester's going to be troubling, but they're fortunately in bad form. So let's call it 2-2. Since we like conceding goals with the second string, and Liverpool, it's going to be terrible, isn't it? The quality of that game is just going to be awful. So I'm going to say 0-0.
Yeah, no. If that game does happen, I think Liverpool are going to win because they just need it way, way more than us. And fine margins in a game like that will go a long way. But
I'm not predicting Liverpool victory. No. Because it's
no, me neither.
Wrong.
I'm getting out of it by predicting that the game won't happen. I'm predicting a victory for anarchy. All right. Thanks, everyone. Patreon backers, stay tuned for more. We'll probably be back at the weekend, like on Monday as normal, because of just the way the games go and work schedules and stuff. We'll cover both of these games next weekend and release the pod on Monday ahead of the Fulham game. So we'll see you then. Patreon backers, stay tuned for more.
All right. Have a good one.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.